Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Networking with Nathaniel. This is episode 28. I'm here with Zach Busch. He's actually one of the first people that I met in Sub 2, and it's really been a long time since we've connected. We had scheduled this podcast, oddly enough, before I decided to join this mastermind with the Growth Co. And on our first uh, dive into the bonus Zooms, I see his face pop up and I go, "Holy moly, like we really need to connect and we're going to do so today." He's up in Pennsylvania. I think you mentioned like an hour north of Philadelphia, doing a lot of real estate deals up there. He's a happily, oh, I don't know, happily, I'm hoping happily married
So far.
husband. Yeah. He's got a 9-month old, and that's a blessing. And I'm sure that's been a challenge as well. He's a mechanical engineer by trade and investing on the side, and we haven't talked in a while, so I'm really excited to dive into all the stuff that he's been doing since we met a couple years ago. So hey, it's a pleasure having you here, man. It's been a long time. How you doing?
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. Like you said, it's been a few years, so I'm happy to. I think it's the first time we've talked face to face too.
Yeah.
Not in person, but at least seeing each other talk. So
Yeah.
it's been phone calls and text messages. So it's been good. 2 years, a lot can happen, right? It's not as much as you want sometimes, but just keeping moving. And as long as I'm better than I was the day before, that's kind of how I've been moving.
Yeah, I love that. And you'll see it on the previous episode. You don't always notice the growth, but the growth is happening as long as you're taking action. And it reminded me of a kid's song that we play for my kid all the time. It's like one of my favorite Raffi songs. It's I wonder if I'm growing. The mom's telling him you're growing, but the kid doesn't see it until he can finally reach up and touch the water in the fountain. And you're like, yeah, it's a beautiful song for me. But yeah. So tell me, like, kind of, I know you're doing the mechanical engineer thing during the day. Like, what's kind of keeping you busy besides being a husband and a father outside of that? Like, what's the real estate kind of investing look like?
Yeah, so I mean, the last 2 years I was like wholesaling primarily. When I first joined Sub Two, I had no experience in real estate. I'd read a ton of books, listened to podcasts, and so when I joined, I was like, okay, community, like great. I'll have some people to reach out to when I inevitably run into things that I don't know what to do or don't know where to go next. So when I joined that, I saw the zero to hero. That was like one of the biggest reasons I joined was like how to build a wholesaling business from scratch. And I was like, okay, like, I'm very methodical and I'm very planned out with what I do. And I'm very good at like, here's how to step by step go through things.
Mhm.
And so I was like, let's just do that. Let's join and I'll just follow this and I'll just start crushing it. And, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be as easy as just, hey, follow this and you'll be, rich and you'll have all this real estate.
Yeah.
But so I started doing that. I did the whole hire the VA, pull the lists, doing the call calibrations with the VA and following up with the leads and all of that, and was doing it all solo. And I'm not the most outgoing. I'm not a visionary person for sure. Like so, negotiating with sellers and all that wasn't like my bread and butter. But I was like, whatever. I just got to grind through and do it. Um, so I did that for like probably 6 months by myself, got a couple deals, and then I ended up partnering with somebody else in Sub Two who's in the Philly area. How we met is kind of a funny story, but I won't go into it. His name's
Okay.
Caleb, and so he was doing a lot of the follow-ups for me. He had more time than I did because he was still finishing college,
Okay.
and so he was doing a lot of that follow-up. And when I partnered with him, and we didn't do it in any like official fashion, it was just like trust and like, hey, we'll just see how things go.
Yeah.
So the last year, all 2023, before then I'd maybe done one or two. Last year, I think we did six together, 6 or 7. So, not a significant amount, but, definitely something I was happy with.
Yeah.
And, so I was like, a proof of concept, like, all right, cool. Like working with people is definitely something that I should have started doing networking before. And so I was doing that for a while. And then I was just like not enjoying the direct to seller portion of it
Mhm.
and got into real estate to, buy properties. And I kind of let that go. I was like, whatever, wholesaling, I have to do it to get money. And so switched to direct agent because I thought that might be more fun. Is building more relationships, not just singular,
Right. Transaction.
transactions.
Yeah.
But so I did that for a little while, and you mentioned the Growth Co with Jesse, and it was like, all right, business coaching directed towards real estate. Like, I need help with some clarity and working through some of the problems that I've been feeling, like not fulfillment in what I'm doing. Like I'm just doing it, I'm grinding, but like
Hmm.
kind of aimlessly. So going through that was super helpful because it made me realize like, hey, you got into real estate to buy stuff. Like now let's figure out what we can do to start buying and how we can build a team around that. So, you know, I think I was a long way of answering your
No,
question of
yeah.
like, what are you doing? What
Yeah.
do you do throughout the day? And a lot of it was just a lot of just grinding, grinding, grinding. And now it's trying to be more intentional with that time, getting up a couple hours early. Okay, what are the things I need to get done today? What are like, I try to do like three main things. And if I can get those three things, then I can be at least satisfied with the day. So the morning is like just organize my day, try to knock out a couple of those big ticket items, going to work, sometimes doing a little bit of stuff here and there while I'm at work. And then, certain days after work, I try to get those other things done. And some days after work, it's just family time. Like it's just balancing work, real estate, and family.
Mm.
So like just trying to figure out that dynamic between everything.
When did you, there's a lot to unpack here. When did you start with the GrowCo?
That started ended like the first week in January and this like ended up
Okay.
being not 9 weeks. So I like October I think was like the
Okay.
first week of that or maybe sometime in October.
Yeah, so you were just the most recent one. Now they're taking a break, and then we start up on the 6th. But it's funny, you're a lot of the things you mentioned are just lining up exactly with the reasons that we kind of connected with the Growth Co. Is that like, wholesaling. Yeah, it's great. It's providing some proof of concept. It's giving you some skills and, comping and underwriting and talking to sellers and all those things. But that's not why we started. That's not
Yeah.
why we got into real estate in the first place. And so, yeah, it sounds like you did it for like a year and a half of the wholesaling thing.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing or has that been kind of cut off at this point?
Yeah, I pretty much dissolved it.
Okay.
I've, maintained some relationships that I built through with some buyers and, some of the agents and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's like completely gone, but I'm not actively pursuing it.
Yeah. Okay. So this Caleb is doing his own thing now. You're not, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. We own a property together. So like through our marketing efforts, we got a property about 2 hours north of us in the Poconos.
Okay.
And so like we're, we still talk and all that stuff. It was a mutual parting. Like he's like, I want to do something else, and I wanted to do, switch to direct agent and do something different. So we
Okay.
parted ways, but we still stay in contact. I mean, we did a lot together and we own the property. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was just the partnership had kind of run its course, so to speak, and it was time to part ways. It's not like you had a fight or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a 10-year age gap too between us, and like like he just graduated college and he's got his job, and like so he's building a lot of his own stuff now. But I just think we were in two different stages of our life, and we both were like, yeah, let's just we're good with what happened, and we'll stay
Yeah.
friends, but we're not going to do anything in an official capacity.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. And that's the way I hope every partnership can be. If it needs to dissolve, it dissolves just kind of naturally and you mutually, and you both go your own ways amicably. Um,
Yeah,
So like how much time would you say on a given day, on average, are you able to devote to real estate? Because I know you mentioned you're doing a lot, before you go to your engineering job, and I'm sure it's not just real estate stuff you're doing, mindfulness exercises and things like that as well. But how much time would you say kind of is devoted to the real estate?
I mean, during the week, it's probably like 2 to 3 hours a day.
Nice.
Two pretty consistently. Just depends on, in the morning, depends on whether or not my son sleeps
Okay.
till 7 or 6:30. Because I'm usually up at like 4:30. So if I can get like an hour, hour and a half in the morning, and then an hour, hour and a half at night, that's
Okay.
usually the range. And then I try to block off some time Saturday and Sunday, just like a few hours of straight like deep work, like no distractions time. So it's enough to kind of keep things moving. I would love to be able to devote more time to it and, leave my job. But right now, the job's secure. It's great. I'm using that to supplement and try to build stuff on the side too, just
Okay.
to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. And in those 2 to 3 hours. I, I would assume before the kiddo wakes up at 6:37, it's not like you're making calls to agents unless you're calling like Germany or something. What is, what are you focusing your time on? Because one of the things that I've learned in my very limited time with the Growth Co. and being a part of their Facebook group and things like that is just like super intentional, intentional focused time. What does that intentional focused time look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I do is I walk my dog. So that's kind of like get me moving and all that, kind of just like
At
clear the head
4:30 in
out.
the morning?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
like she's ready to go. And it's winter
Yeah.
here, so it's like 15 degrees some mornings, and
Yeah.
she's a husky mix, so she's like, I don't really care. I
Okay.
don't like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I have to do that, or else she'll like bug me, and I won't be able to get anything done. So it's like that's what it starts off, just a little bit of movement in the morning, like right away, and then I'll sit down with my journal and just kind of jot some stuff down from the day before, like either highlights or how I was feeling, certain things that happened, just to try to check in with like emotions and all of that stuff because I tend to sit in my head and think a lot, like internally, and kind of let things spiral that don't need to spiral.
Okay.
So I try to use that time to like, all right, like a little bit of a brain dump, and then look at my schedule for the day and what are the couple things that I want to hit and try to get done for the day.
Okay.
And when it was doing direct agent or direct seller stuff, it was like, okay, I need to call, this many people. I need to pull the list. I need to, train the VA. So there's pretty consistent stuff that I was working on. And now that I've switched it a little bit, switched the business to, all right, focusing on buying, like I need to build out a team to help me with that because I don't have all day to do certain things. And I don't enjoy doing everything. So it's what do I need next? What's the most important person? And that's kind of where I'm at now is like figuring out what is that next step in finding somebody to help me get to that next part. So journaling and then what are the things I want to get done for the day and then trying to get one or two of those things done, before I have to go to work.
Yeah. Okay. What and you may or may not have an answer to this, but my curiosity is going to take us there. What do you think the who is going to be like? What are the skills, traits of that person that you're going to use to fill the slot?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest gap that I mean, you need two things, right? When buying is deals and money. So how can I get both of those things, right? And I think money is the more pressing thing to get. Like you want to get that, whatever, 6 months before you have the deal.
Hmm.
So trying to find people that are either, connectors that I can work with or, capital raisers, people who want to go in, like talk to as many other people and raise that money. And, that's my first priority because I don't mind underwriting deals. I don't love underwriting deals. Like that would probably be the next person is just have somebody like writing the deals, like underwriting the deals for me, and I'll go out and get those deals. Have them come in. But those are the two things, but mainly the capital, like getting that up and running and getting somebody to help me out with that, whether that is joining my team or just partnering in some aspect. Like, I don't know what that looks like, but that's the next step.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned the 6 months before the deal thing, and I've been like putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, but because I haven't up until this point seen a need for it. We were wholesaling, we're flipping, we've got hard money lenders, and we've got a war chest, so to speak, of our own money that we've been using to get in and out of deals. And so I haven't had a need for private money, but it's like if we're going to do a lot of buying and we're going to hold real estate, we need to come up with money. And like 6 months is a long time from now. I want to buy now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a part of the Facebook group Network to Net Worth.
Yeah, I just joined that.
Okay.
Yeah, because Shane was also in the Growth Co too. So I've been seeing him on those Monday calls.
Okay.
So I joined it with them, and then Amber, who she's working with a
Yeah.
lot, she was in my cohort. So
Okay.
I got to know her pretty well. So I jumped in with that. Yeah, so that's been a good place.
Yeah. It seems like that's going to be a good place for you to meet a lot of connectors that are out there doing, spending 5, 10 hours a day meeting and people and stuff that you can plug into their systems, so to speak. So you can reach out to 5 people and be with 500 people because they know a bunch of people. Yeah, so that's amazing. I'm glad you're a part of that. I was going to invite you, but no need. Uh, what is the like 3 to 6 month, maybe even 12 month? goal for you looking like right now? And how can we being me and anybody else, come help you accomplish that? I
Yeah,
mean, I know one answer is bring money to the table,
yeah,
but
sure, sure,
yeah.
sure. And I want to build those, relationships too along the way. And, part of that is being more intentional with who I'm talking to. Before it was just like, hey, here's my calendar. Anybody who wants to book a call with me, or if you're new, like, let's talk. And yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that's great. Like, and it's a lot of new people. And I love helping people. Like, I'm a CrossFit coach, nutrition coach. Like, I like helping people too. But at the same time, it's like I have 3 hours a day at most to connect with people. So I want to be intentional with those connections.
Mhm.
So like I said, like talking to people who are connectors and just even just people who are ahead of me, like, hey, I'm buying, even if it's just like 3 properties, which is actually a lot, but 3 properties a month or whatever. Like, hey, that's awesome. I would love to be there. Like, I want to talk to you, see what you're doing, see what I can learn from that. So, in the next few months, it's going to be being intentional with those connections and meeting new people, that are either ahead of me or I think align with where I want to be going.
Okay.
Developing that more clear vision. Like, yeah, I'd love to buy by the end of the year, you know, 40 properties. Like, that'd be amazing. So, like, that's my 10x goal right now. Like, in
Okay.
my head, four, like one a quarter seems reasonable. So it's like, all right, let's think bigger. 40. Now, what do I have to do to get that? So now that my mindset has kind of gotten there, that's the plan of being intentional with connecting with the right people, the people I think that, I can provide value to, but that I can also provide value to me. And then how can I build out a team to scale up to that level?
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned the mindset thing, and that's something that I'm struggling with, and I know a lot of people out there are. And um, on my call with Jesse, on a call that we had, was I'm stuck. I'm still stuck in this 5 to 10,000 fog, and he says, it's the same amount of work to do the 5 to 10 as it is to do the 100. And yeah, it's tough to wrap your head around that when you've been, cold calling, talking to sellers, doing all the things, and to unload some of that and be able to do the higher level tasks like making the connections with private money lenders, or like the connectors, like you're saying. And I also wanted to say, you're being more intentional with your time. So I really appreciate you coming on here, because this is 45 minutes that you could have spent, being with somebody else. But I hope that we have value to change. I'm not just taking from you right now. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, oh man, I had a question there and I forgot where I was going. Ooh,
Your conversation with Jesse,
yeah. Oh yeah,
mindset.
was there one like piece, or something that kind of pushed you over the edge that was able to get you to click to 10x as possible? The 40 instead of 4, a nugget or something like that.
So it's hard because I still am not sure I believe that getting 40 doors by the end of the year is possible. So
Okay.
like I'm still trying to like keep that vision there and that mindset there of it. Like it's definitely hard for me to envision that still. But you know, it's kind of one of those things where, we went through the cohort where Jesse's kind of harping on a lot of the same stuff over and over again, which any coach who's helping people through stuff, it takes like 7 times for people to kind of get something to click or to take action on something sometimes. And I think that's what it was. Like, I mean, through the cohort was like 8 or 9 weeks. I was like 6 weeks in. I was still like, all right, I'm direct to seller or direct to
Mhm.
agent doing that. And I guess at one point it was just like it just clicked where he was just talking. And I was like, oh, like you're right. And his question was like, why did you get into real estate? And it was like, oh, I wanted to buy properties. It's like, okay, like, why are you not doing that? And then it's like, well, I don't have money. I don't have this. And he's like, okay, well, how can we go? So it's just like thinking a little differently. And like, just because you can't imagine it doesn't mean that it's not possible. And using those people like him who is, doing a ton of deals and just being like, okay, like let's just learn from what he did and what worked. And I think that like seeing the proof of concept from somebody else and having a mentor and other people that you can connect to like helps be like, okay, it might be hard, but it's at least possible. And now I just need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Hmm. So it's not necessarily one little thing. Maybe it was him hammering, certain things over and over in your head. And then all of a sudden, kind of like the light bulb goes off. Oh yeah, that's does make sense, which is it's funny because I've heard, and I don't know if you've heard this phrase is like, and I might butcher it here, but the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
And like I've heard it over and over, and then I was just talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, and just the way he said it, like, oh man, yeah, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. Like maybe I should take a little bit more care into the way I fold my clothes and put them under my bed, or because that's it. Like it's attention to detail and attentionality and everything. Um, yeah, so that's very interesting. I wanted to are you focused on single family, multifamily, both? Like, what does that look like? Oh, yeah, I guess. Well, let's see what your answer is.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'd be a single and small multi, I think is what
Okay.
I'm focusing on, at least for now. Like let's get a couple of those rolling. Like I said, I have the one long-term rental, but start picking those up. And anything cash in the Philly area, not in the city itself, but cash in this outside of suburbs, even not the property I have up in the Poconos, did a burr on that. So
Okay.
anything cash wise in my local area, because I have more connections, I'm more comfortable with that at this point, and then creative pretty much anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah, and I know you mentioned that underwriting is not your favorite thing, but as far as a cash deal goes, and you mentioned the burr there, buy rehab, what is it? Buy rehab, rent, refi, repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since how do you look at how do you look at the numbers on that to know that it's going to work for you on the refi side, especially in the climate, the interest rate climate that we're at right now? Because that's something that I'm struggling with looking at, looking at deals from wholesalers. Like we're looking at things through a fix and flip perspective.
Mhm.
And 70% minus repairs, and like from a buy and holder, they're just kicking our butts. We can't compete with them. So we're like,
Mhm.
well, and we didn't like we talked about already. We don't want to fix and flip. We want to buy. Well, we do like fixing and flipping, but that's not what why we got into this. So like, what is it that you're looking for? If you know that I answer, I don't know. That helps you kind of say, okay, this is where I could buy this cash, for it to make sense as a long-term rental, in the future.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the property location and all that stuff too. But I mean, I follow a similar rule of thumb where it's like 70% of ARV minus repairs, and go from there. Like that's usually a good starting point still.
Okay.
Like you said, the problem is when you refinance out, it's the interest rate's 8, 9%. I don't know what it's at now, but we have an 8% one on the one we bird, but and it barely breaks even in cash flow, but we got it at such a low discount that we're no money into it, so we were fine
Okay.
with that. So it just depends on where the rent rates are, and then this one has an HOA, so
Mm,
where that works out. So starting with the 70% and going from there and seeing what the rehab is usually what I start with, and then figure it out.
okay.
And then usually you can take the ARV and see what the mortgage would be. Like if I go, you can go up to 80%, and then what is that PITI, and does that even come close to the rent rate? If it's close, then it's like, okay, I'll dig a little bit deeper, but that's the starting point usually.
Okay. And as far as uh the expenses that you're calculating for, because everybody does stuff differently as far as calculating your cash flow as a rental. Some people
Mhm.
just say rent minus mortgage and PITI, and that's my cash flow. And other people are like, no, you got to do capital expenses, vacancy, this, that, and what do, what is it that you're kind of looking for?
Yeah, so I factor in the property management. I usually do 10%. That's the one that we have now is 10%, but he doesn't charge the like 1 month of
Oh,
rent to fill the vacancy.
okay.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. So I had to do the math. I was like, does that work out? It actually works out against him, like charging the 2% extra because everybody else up there was like 7 or 8% of the rent, but they
Oh,
charge the 1 month of the first month's rent.
okay.
So I don't know why he does it that way, and it's not much different, but I was like, okay, that's fine. So I'd say just take 10%. I'm an engineer, so I like to be a little conservative with all my percentages.
Yeah.
And then usually just another 10% on top of that. So 20% of the rent off of the top. And then
Okay.
if it breaks even at that point, then I'm happy. Like the one that we have in the Poconos, we redid everything. We did floors, we did paint, we put in new cabinets. It doesn't have air, it just has baseboard electric heat. So it was pretty minimal stuff. They have a water heater that we'll need to replace in the next like 5 years, and one of the like bay patio doors in the next 5 years. But like, so depending on how new the property is and how much rehab we need to do, I'll lower the amount of, CapEx that we need to do. So it's usually like 10% property management, 5% and 5%. But it just depends on the level of work that we had to do.
Okay. Yeah, so you're the 5% is maintenance and stuff like that you're setting aside for. Okay, yeah, interesting. And if you maybe hadn't gone in and done all that work, would you stretch it like to 15 or
Probably, yeah. And it
yeah.
also depends too on how much we're able to cash out of it. We were
Okay.
able to cash out a lot, so we were already had a nice little war chest ready to go in there if something did
Mhm.
break or if we had a length of time where it was vacant. So that kind of factors into it too. So I wish it was as simple as, hey, this is always what we do, but if I can just quickly underwrite it as, all right, here's the PITI when we refi, minus 20%, of the rent, where does that put us? And that'll give me a quick high level of, all right, let's dig deeper into this.
Yeah, interesting. When I know that being an engineer, because I mentioned it off, like that's what I went to school for. I never used it, but well, I guess I used aspects of it, but just not the like actual engineering part. But
Mhm.
you can get super detailed, but I like how you're just trying to keep it real simple you're still stuck, 70% minus repairs. That makes it easy for you to kind of quickly see if this is going to be a deal or how you would calculate an offer. And then you go from there saying, okay, well, that now down the line, can I get 75% or 80% back out? And would it cash flow? So this one that you have in the Poconos right now isn't cash flowing, but you're just holding it like for depreciation, um, rent growth. Is that like, couple
Yeah,
couple years from now, it's going to be a few $100 more in rent and
yeah, exactly. We went a little lower on the rent, just to get it filled because it was like August. So when we
okay.
were trying to rent it out, so I was like, I don't want to get stuck with it through like
Yeah.
all the winter.
Yeah.
So we went a little bit lower. We can probably get another $100 next year if they don't renew. So we go from basically break even, and that's after including, our expenses, our property manager, and all that stuff. So make to $100 a month potentially. So yeah,
The heck?
rent growth, and we took 75%. So we have some equity in there that if whatever happened, we could needed to sell it, we could.
I'm not sure what the heck happened here. It says failed to start video camera.
Huh. Yeah, I just saw your picture pop up here.
Yeah, did my battery died. It's plugged in. Huh. Select another camera and video settings.
It's weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Huh?
Oh, there you go. There you go. Fixed it.
Hey. Oh, we'll just cut that part
Oh,
out. Oh my goodness, what the heck? Huh. Is
that's what
that?
was so weird.
Yeah, that is very weird. It
There you go.
Oh
Oh.
my God. Right. Well, we're gonna
Uh,
finish this without the camera, apparently.
all right.
Um, so I don't know what the heck's going on, but you can stare at that silly picture of me right there for the next couple minutes. We're coming close to the time anyway. I do have a couple questions for you. Uh, basically, what if anything, books, podcasts, documentaries do you kind of like listen to that motivate you or give you inspiration. Yeah, that's the same thing as motivate. I don't know what the heck. Or like educational stuff for real estate or fitness. I know you mentioned that you're a health, health coach, nutrition coach. So, is there anything like that that you could provide to me and my viewers?
Yeah, so The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss
Mm.
was one that I read on my honeymoon almost 3 years ago now. And that was the thing that like finally got me to, okay, I've been reading about real estate, like or I've heard about real estate, like let's get into that. At the end of each chapter, he has, to ask little like thought-provoking questions. And it started with like, what is something you're thinking about, starting or doing that you haven't yet, or are, trying to figure out how to start. And it's like, okay, if everything goes well, like what is the end result? If everything goes poorly, like what is everything goes wrong? Like what is the absolute worst thing that could
Mm.
happen? And so I was like, okay, like investing in real estate, like all the good stuff, financial freedom and wealth and generational wealth. And, then it was like all the stuff that could go wrong. It's like I could lose all my money, I could go bankrupt and all this stuff. And then it said, okay, you have all these problems, everything goes wrong. How do you go through and fix them? And the answer was, oh, I can go and work a W-2 and clear off all the debts and try to build my life back up. And I was like, that's when it hit me where it was like, oh, my worst case scenario if everything goes wrong is literally what I'm doing right
Yeah,
now.
you're
Like,
already doing it.
like I am living that life currently. And so I was like, okay, like we should just do this because, if the worst that's gonna happen is what I'm already doing, like how bad can it be?
Yeah.
So that was a really good book. And then, Alex Hormozy is a great, follow on Instagram. He's got, a good podcast to listen to. Same with Dan Martell. He wrote a really good book called Buy Back Your Time, which is a lot of like delegation and how to find kind of like who, not how, but like how to, justify the expense for it and what it provides to you. So those are
Okay.
the couple. I'm a big reader. Like I love like fiction, nonfiction, and stuff like that. So a lot of those, and then a lot of the authors that I read end up having podcasts. So I just end up listening to those two things because they're pretty similar in what they're preaching and what they're going about, kind of, you know, teaching the world.
What was the I have not heard the Buy Back Your Time one before. What was that author's name? Dan?
Dan Martell.
Dan Martell.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's like a tech like guy. He's like a
Okay.
SAS, I think it's called. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's a
Oh,
really good
it's,
one.
I know, yeah, SAS. It doesn't matter. Um, I'm sorry that this worked out this way at the end. I'm glad it happened at the end though here.
Mhm.
I really appreciate you coming on here, Zach, and sharing your kind of story with me, and the audience here. Do you have any parting tips, words for, words of advice for anybody out there who's just getting started, struggling to make traction, struggling to just continue pushing forward when they're not, when maybe deals aren't getting done or things are falling out the wayside?
Yeah, I mean, I think reaching out for support and, intentional networking is great. Like I found that people generally want to help each other. And, as long as you have done kind of the effort and put the work in, people are willing to go above and beyond and go out of the way to help you. It's when you're consistently asking for something and they give you advice and then you don't follow through with it. So, communicating and networking and, just making friends that are doing the things that you're doing or that are in front of where you are, I think that's super important. And then just trying to enjoy the process of it, whatever it is. It's easy to get caught up in the day in and day out of stuff and not remember to just have fun with it. Like, to treat it as a game. Life is a game. Like, let's see, play within the rules and have fun with it, because that's what I need to remind myself consistently is when things go bad, I beat myself up and get so down on it. But it's like, this is a game. Like, let's learn from it. Let's move on and let's
Mhm.
have fun. So if you can
Yeah,
just continually remind yourself of that, like that's what's been huge for me in the past couple months is just have fun with it. Just enjoy the journey.
I love that. Yeah, and it's funny. Carlin just posted, was within the past day or so, something along those exact same lines. Like, if you're not having fun, then what the heck's the point? Like
Yeah.
I forgot to ask, what's the best way for somebody to reach out to you if they have deals for you, have money for you, just want to chat with you and learn from somebody who's out there doing it?
Yeah, yeah. DM me on Instagram, Zach Busch 924. You can find me on Facebook. I also have a podcast that just started last
Oh, no.
Sunday.
Okay.
So it's every Sunday, 11 a.m. Wealthy Well-Being. It's all nutrition coaching, fitness coaching, health and fitness tips and tricks, just starting with foundational stuff. And the idea is that if you come in, listen, and do some of the stuff that I'm talking through, you'll be happier and healthier.
I love that because if you don't have the health, like what's the point of the wealth? Is
Exactly.
that going to be like on Spotify, things like that, or is that on YouTube? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I'll go live. It'll be YouTube live on YouTube, Facebook, and
Okay.
Instagram every Sunday at 11. But yeah, I record. It all gets recorded. It'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel. It will be uploaded on Spotify, so everybody should be able to watch or listen
Yeah.
however they want, as easy as possible. Is
Awesome.
what I was attempting to do.
Yeah, cool, cool. I'll link what's the YouTube channel?
Just my name, Zach Bush. I can
Okay.
send you all of
Easy enough.
that. Yeah,
Oh, no, I'll find it here and I'll put the links
perfect.
in the YouTube description. I appreciate you coming on. Again, I'm sorry that I don't know what the heck happened here, but it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.